Try not to wiggle, though. You're inside something that came from my old pizzeria. I don't think it was ever used. At least not the way it was meant to be used.
This line from Circus Baby in FNAF Sister Location implies to people who know the FNAF lore that the SpringLock suit we're stuck inside of is the suit William did his murders in, Spring Bonnie. William used it for his devious purposes. Instead of entertaining kids, on the one day Circus Babies was open, William used it to kill. This raises a bunch of mysteries. For one, what happened to this crime? The only thing we know happened on day one of Circus Babies was Elizabeth's death. If William, for example, killed kids to put them in the fun times, as was the theory before Molten MCI, why don't we ever hear about this? If this is the suit William killed people in, why does it have a faceplate that opens like the fun times when the classic Spring Bonnie and Springtrap don't have that design? Is this just a more updated version that did some kills that we were never privy to? Did William commit the MCI in the classic Spring Bonnie and this Circus Baby slaughter spree in Funtime Bonnie? These mysteries haven't been answered in the decade since the game came out. Molten MCI just confuses the point further. If there were no new murders at Sister Location, why does William have this suit, and what did he do in it? What are you doing? Just standing there. Your mind's about to be blown and the entire FNAF lore will be solved. Take a seat. It's gonna be a couple minutes. Welcome to the Horror Homestead. My name is GiBi, and we are about to solve the Sister Location SpringLock suit. With the release of the book Dittophobia, one of the Tales from the Pizzaplex short stories, we possibly got our answer. We learned that a boy named Rory was kidnapped and locked away in the Sister Location bunker. So maybe this was the suit William used to kidnap him. But even that isn't super satisfying. Sister Location closed after one day due to Elizabeth's death. The public was told it was because of gas leaks. If Rory disappeared and was never found again, wouldn't the public know? Why would William cover up Elizabeth's death with this fake gas leak story, but then let the fact that Rory disappeared be tied to his company? It seems like a patch job done by Scott Cawthon. He left this plot thread dangling, didn't intend to use it for anything, and then a decade later went, this story can be told here in this book, whatever, books don't matter. But he didn't think about how it conflicted with the lore, and he shrugged because he just doesn't care anymore. It's disappointing, but at least the mystery is solved. The same cannot be said for this next mystery. Continuing on with the theme of SpringLock suit mysteries, in FNAF 3, we hear about their dangers, what to do to avoid them, and what to do if you get spring-locked and you should just go bleed to death in the back room. We hear that the SpringLock suits are being decommissioned due to
an unfortunate incident at the Sister Location involving multiple and simultaneous SpringLock failures.
In FNAF 3, this was just a piece of lore intended to give background flair to the story and also functionally tell us why the SpringLock suits aren't used anymore. It's as unimportant to the story as the Bite of 87 was in FNAF 1. It's not something we were ever meant to see. MatPat tried to tie this to the Shadow animatronics, thinking that 2 employees were killed in SpringLock suits. To this day, people try to fill in the gap and figure out who the poor spring-locking victim was that caused this policy to be changed. But, like so many FNAF mysteries, it's never been answered. Much like the animatronic that was responsible for the Bite of 87, it doesn't actually matter, but it's something that comes up every once in a while. It's something that theorists want an answer to. When Sister Location was announced, everybody assumed it would be the story of this incident, the way that FNAF 2 was the story of the Bite of 87. But then Sister Location came and went. It was actually the story about how Mike's sister was killed by this whole new animatronic named Baby. It was about how there's testing chambers. It was about how he's got entered inside of him dog. The only SpringLock suit in the game isn't actually focused on in the story. This can't be the FNAF 3 SpringLock failure because it didn't fail. Circus Babies was closed after one day, and William was the one who would be wearing the suit. There can't have been an employee who had multiple simultaneous SpringLock failures within this suit because it was used, but not the way it was meant to be used. William wore it to do more murders. So we have a sister location with a SpringLock suit, but it's not the sister location or the SpringLock failure. Scott seriously needs to tighten up his writing the way that you need to tighten the SpringLocks on that night in sister location. Or does he? See, here's the problem. Either this story doesn't make any sense, or what we're presented in-game is flawed. Not that the story is poor, but that Scott messed up telling us his intended story. Today, we mostly ignore the fact that Purple Guy is seemingly arbitrarily a different color in the Foxy Go 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 minigame. Is him being pink a hint, or is it a mistake? It's a mistake. What about the text color in FNAF 4 being a different shade of yellow in The Last Night? Is this a hint or a mistake? That one's still up in the air, like we genuinely don't know. But what if I told you that one of these two voice lines about SpringLock suits is a mistake? And if you look past the error, everything clicks into place perfectly, the way a SpringLock suit doesn't. Speaking of clicking, you should click that like and subscribe button for more answers to FNAF mysteries you've been wondering about for 10 years. Now, let's examine Baby's line from Sister Location.
Try not to wiggle, though. You're inside something that came from my old pizzeria. I don't think it was ever used. At least not the way it was meant to be used. Too dangerous. It's just big enough for one person to fit inside, but just barely.
Baby's lines, especially in this section of the game, alternate between sweet and malicious in order to keep you, the player, on your guard. We're not supposed to know if we can trust Baby. That's why her tone goes from whimsical to mysterious to sweet to being a clown. I think that the voice actress just read this in her mysterious, whimsical, sweet, malicious voice, and thus placed emphasis and tone on the wrong parts of the sentence through no fault of her own. I'm going to read the line plainly, and we'll see if you can catch what I think it was supposed to be read like. You're inside something that came from my old pizzeria. I don't think it was ever used, at least not the way it was meant to be used. Too dangerous. If you still can't hear it, I'm going to make a lateral change and see if that makes it more direct. I'm going to swap some words around and replace them with synonyms. You're inside something that came from my old pizzeria. I don't think it was ever used, at least not properly. It's too dangerous. This is a different story than what's implied in the game, but it fits what we would expect perfectly. Baby's old pizzeria is the sister location from FNAF 3. The suit wasn't used. It wasn't used by the first day of Circus Baby's being opened. It wasn't used, like, in operation. But it was probably used beforehand by staff or an employee or a teenager, which is probably what Edwin would have liked, on a training day. It wasn't used the way it was meant to be used, as in, it wasn't used properly. It malfunctioned due to the fault of the person wearing the suit.
After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous SpringLock failures, the company has deemed the suit temporarily unfit for employees.
It's too dangerous, so it was scrapped. Just the inflection on the line, too dangerous, could have helped the meaning. If too dangerous was too dangerous, I think we would have gotten the intended meaning. And if the previous sentence was worded a little differently, I think it would have been much more clear. In hindsight, this is incredibly obvious. What was the SpringLock incident at the sister location? It was the SpringLock suit in sister location that wasn't used the way it was meant to be used. Duh! I think Scott intended us to understand this. As we're sitting inside of the suit as Mike on that night, we're supposed to know that this suit has already failed. That's why it's been shoved away. This is supposed to increase tension and danger on behalf of the player, because we've heard about what the SpringLock suit can do to you. But the community as a whole didn't figure this out. I mean, Unwithered Truth figured this out in his sister location video, but that's different. The wider community didn't figure this out. We've been sitting here for 10 years with these 2 unsolved mysteries, trying to fit them in somewhere. In my own 9-hour FNAF video, in my animated recap of the story, this was one thing I couldn't solve satisfactorily, so I didn't even try. Around this time, somebody died in a SpringLock suit. But it turns out that these 2 mysteries answer one another. And sometimes, the SpringLock failure at the sister location is just the SpringLock failure in the sister location. That's my conclusion. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Be sure to be nice to each other in the comments, consider supporting the creators you admire, never lose sight of the things that are important to you, and remember, Freddy's stands for Friendly, Respectful Engagement, Discussion, and Discourse Yields Success.